cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
I'm almost laughing. My headphones are cutting in and out here, so I can't even hear myself. So give me the thumbs up that I'm talking live on the radio.
I can hear you, and you sound beautiful.
All right, that's groovy. Hello, everybody. Always happy to be here. I'm kind of happy to be here, whether it's on the radio show or here.
We love that you're here.
Wherever here happens to be. Billy's with us, and Josh was with us, and we have a fascinating guest with so incredibly delicious voice that that was definitely titillating to hear him before the radio show started. I think that's what happened to my headphones and stuff. I can hear myself now. I'm good. I'm holding the cord. If I hold the cord, everything's okay. There's something to be said for that. Okay, so Josh, you want to say anything before I introduce our guests?
I'm excited to be here, as always. Well, I'm learning incredible things. I'm actually applying the teachings that we do with learningtantra.com, reading our own literature and applying those practices. So without getting into that, we'll cover that a little bit more later on another show, but I'm ecstatic.
You're actually walking the talk.
I'm walking the talk. I figure at some point either someone's going to ask me a question I need to answer, or I might actually want to have the incredible life that we're talking to everyone about.
It's kind of a prerequisite, right?
To have an incredible life.
To be on this team.
To be on this team, you have to have an incredible life.
That's right. Well, thank you for leading that journey. I think that's a great idea. And learning that what I write actually works.
It does.
That's fabulous.
It does. And I'll help people connect those dots. As I learn, we'll all be adding to the teaching.
Excellent. I am happy to hear that. And we have the sexy voice that's coming on here very soon. His name is John, and I'm going to introduce him like John. And then he's going to tell us, because I do this. This is kind of a weird host thing that I do. But he's going to tell us who he is and what he's famous for, what he does. Why is he here on the radio with us today, other than that voice, right?
Right. In addition to the beautiful voice.
In addition to this voice. I'm sure he's famous for something he's going to tell us about. And it could be business, it could be sex, it could be, that's the thing about this show.
We go there.
Team Tantra. All right, John.
Yes, okay, so get to talk about myself for a few moments.
I know, we love that. We want to hear your voice.
Good, okay. And I do accents, by the way, so if you want Scottish or Hindi later on, let me know and I can switch around.
Sounds great.
But my name is John Maxwell Taylor. I'm best known in America for my one-man play on the life of Carl Gustav Jung, which was called Forever Young. And I did over 250 performances of that in a 5-year period.
Wow.
And I always say, I'm not a trained psychologist, but you can't walk in Carl Jung's shoes for 5 years and not have something rub off on you, hopefully. So that was a great experience. There were 20 different characters that I played, and including Freud and Jung's wife and his mistress. And
wow.
It was a very expanding experience. Prior to that, in my teens, I was a rock and roll star of sorts in France. At the age of 19, not difficult to become a rock star in France at that time because the French couldn't play rock and roll then. So, so it was easy, except they translated rock and roll songs, American hits, into French, and I had to sing them phonetically. So I didn't know what I was singing about, and it doesn't really work, when you take the American vernacular and put it in French.
No.
They used to call the Beatles music, for example, "Lay Yeah Yeah."
Yeah.
Right.
Very nice.
Right.
I like that.
So anyway, that was my start in sort of performing, being in the public eye, which began around 15. By the time I was 25, I was living in Los Angeles with recording contracts with major labels there and writing songs for other artists. And my producer was Lee Hazelwood, who had big hits at that time with Nancy Sinatra, These Boots Are Made for Walking, and so forth. So I got to work in the studio scene in Hollywood, but Hollywood is a great place to become disillusioned.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Right? And that was where I began to think, is there a bloody God or isn't there? Because if this is all there is,
right.
You might as well stick your head in the oven.
Right.
And it was 1967, the summer of love,
right.
where everybody was tuning in and tripping out. That's when I ran into the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Mm-hmm.
author of Autobiography of a Yogi, and I began to practice his meditation techniques, which is basically, it's a yogi brahmacharya. There's sort of a bit of an accent on celibacy there, and that was the only thing that sort of didn't sit too well with me. So I was thrilled when I read the Los Angeles Times supplement one weekend, and there was an article in there, or a review, or an interview with Omar Garrison, who'd written one of the earliest books about Tantra.
Mm.
And I realized reading this book that there was a path where you could use your sexuality to power up your spiritual evolution.
Well, the difference between the paths of celibacy and sexuality and Tantra, in the celibacy path, we can still use sexual energy. We just don't share it with others.
Yeah, this is true.
Right.
And all the people who've achieved enlightened states through celibacy, they're basically transmuting their sexual energy.
Right. Josh just took a 6-month vow of celibacy. When is that, last week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a 6-day celibacy?
No, 6 months.
No,
6 months.
I started 6 weeks ago. I'm 6 months minus 6 days. And,
okay. 6 days.
And getting more ecstatic as we go.
Well, I had a 5-year period of celibacy from 1967 till 1973 when I got married. And what that did for me was...
You were celibate while you were married? While you were married,
before I got married.
Okay.
Leading up to.
No.
There's 40 million sexless couples in the United States, so.
Right. No, from 1967, when I started meditating, until I met my wife married in 1973, I had a period of celibacy. And what was good about that was it allowed the sexual energy to run in other circuits in my body, rather than the habitual patterns that my brain and my body responses had gotten used to.
Yes.
Also, I wasn't mixing up my energy with other people, so it allowed me to become very clearly identified with the core resonance of my own being.
I did a 5-year stint as well.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I think it's really amazing. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that.
No, but isn't it great when you come back?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
You appreciate it all the more.
All the more.
Yeah.
All the more, yeah. But the real turning point for me as a practitioner of sexual kung fu, spiritualized sexuality, was 1985 when I went to workshops with Master Mantak Chia.
Yes.
And like a lot of people, I've been influenced by that. But because of my long yogi practice, I was able to sort of integrate that in a way that was very profound for me, making a few adaptations here and there. And it's just been absolutely marvelous. And then the latest thing, I've been teaching classes on sacred sexuality for about 15 years, but put everything together in a book that came out this year called Eros Ascending, the Life-Transforming Power of Sacred Sexuality. And it is a sweeping overview of where we've come from with this in America and the world today, the neo-tantra sexuality, the Taoist and so forth. But also the main accent is that it can be used to create extraordinary states of consciousness.
Well, and I think that I've been classically trained as well as worked with some of the neo-tantric practitioners, and in the book I have coming out, we're actually creating a modern path of Tantra, calling it modern Tantra.
Yeah.
And it's getting a little bit away from so much of the sexuality, and it's more about life mastery. Of course, sexuality is part of that. But I think that's what a lot of people are just really skipping. They're trying to go straight into all the sex stuff without realizing that unless you have the foundation, you're just not going to get there. You're going to get some fancy techniques. You maybe get a higher orgasm, but you're really not going to get the profound message of Tantra.
Right. I would agree with you 100% there, and I really am very grateful that I had the years of strict spiritual training before I entered the Tantra Taoist tradition, so that I could incorporate that in a balanced way into my life. And I think what you're hinting at, or perhaps I'm reading into it, but it's so easy, I think, for some people when they come to they find the tantric practices to sort of dive in at the deep end, as it were, and become sort of lost in a kind of hyper-driven sensual experience that obscures the subtle body experience.
Right. Going for the bigger bang, let's all go have orgies.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. And many people need that, to just kind of get things going. But it's a starting off. It's just like a rocket blasting off. There's a lot of smoke and there's a lot of fire. But when you get beyond the Earth's gravitational pull, then you can see the stars and the planets and the moon, and you can look back at the Earth, and there's some spaciousness about you in which your soul can breathe, and it's you've used that power to get some sort of expansiveness that should be maintained whether you're being sexual or not.
Well, and that's the hope. However, I've seen a lot of people just go to the addiction of the hypersexuality.
Right.
You know,
and I looked through your website, and I really like your approach, Tanja. You said something about in the tantric tradition, the sexuality is like 3%.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, because otherwise, and we teach Tantra for business as well. So we're teaching life mastery, Tantra for business. The Tantra itself, actually, I mean, it's it's a huge practice. It's a life philosophy of, really, it's the first college of the universe that was created, and a very, how to learn about astronomy and herbology and how all of this works in relation to our inner bodies and ourselves, how we're all connected to that. And people blast past that, hoping that, just by hooking up the, great orgasm or the yoni massage or the linga massage or something like that, that all of a sudden, the bigger, profound changes are going to happen. And I would say, how you do this is how you do everything. If your life is in chaos and you're just trying to do a fancy technique in the bedroom, it's just really, yes, it'll be a fancy technique.
Right.
But what else are you going to get out of it?
It doesn't improve the relationship, and it doesn't necessarily tap someone into, like what you're saying, Jonathan, that higher level of spirituality. They may have some great experiences, but from the teacher's perspective, if they're not sharing that, this is the pathway you can choose to step on, and people maybe get sidetracked.
Yes, well, there are pitfalls to every path.
Of course.
And it really depends on the individual. You have to be very clear. You've used the word self-mastery or mastery a few times. And what that means to me is that you're balancing the three major functions of your being. The body, mind, organism has three functions. There's the mental function, emotional, and physical.
Yes.
And when the three of them are brought together in a certain type of focus that can make it a vehicle for presence, then there's a solidity and a core strength to that individual, just as a human being before they begin to do anything.
Right. And so, we really go about the foundation, as you know, of breath work. If you don't have a good breath work practice, you're not going anywhere.
Right. Well, I'm breathing good right now.
He's breathing. We're all breathing.
We're all breathing.
Yeah, we just came out with a video-embedded ebook on conscious breath.
Good.
Which is great to be able to actually read your ebook and then have video inlay there that shows you how to actually do the practice. And I know it's not, most people just think breathing is so not sexy. They're always like, they come to me and say, okay, I want the good stuff. And I'm like, great, let's breathe. And they're like, what?
No, the good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff is breathing.
Right.
When you breathe, it's amazing. And, and so this is great because you're a man. If you've studied with Montauk and you've done all of this stuff, you are an ejaculation master, right? You've got this whole thing down?
I probably ejaculated 20 times since 1985.
Serious?
A few times in the beginning by accident.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I'll have a clearing out just to get rid of any old sperm or so forth. But what I've found is some very interesting things. One is the ability to stay empowered in your vehicle, in your body, mind, organism. For a man, is largely dependent upon his ability to extract from his seed the energy, the steam that creates the sort of the yang power that's necessary, and also to remain in the belly, but also to connect with oneself emotionally in a subtle way so that you're able to feel tenderness for your partner. I think there's some subtle substance in the sperm that feeds the heart, and when a man ejaculates too much, then he can't feel that anymore. He thinks, I don't love her anymore.
Well, I talk about this a lot, and, I'm sure people are just, okay, Tanya, we got it. But I see that there's, the regular way people have sex, then there's the men that are practicing what I call ejaculation management, and that's where they think about other things or kind of hold off or, do that. And then there's ejaculation mastery where you're actually in charge of what it is you're doing.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
The drive, what happens, and you're just saying this in the opposite way of what I say, which is once a man ejaculates in a woman, he's no longer interested, even if he loves her. He can't help that in those moments. There's a disconnect. Women feel it immediately.
Immediately.
As soon as the man ejaculates, it's over.
Right, it's not like where did his erection go, it's where did he go energetically.
Exactly. We feel that, and we've been testing it in our team. Most of us are coupled up in the team, except for poor Josh here, who is
Poor Josh.
Joshua.
Do not mock me. No, I'm enjoying my
He's
celibacy.
enjoying himself. Sorry, okay. He's not poor. He is empowered in his place he is now. And I've said to the women, just check that out. When the man ejaculates, I mean, you could be at a 10 in arousal, and as soon as he ejaculates, you don't feel anything. And he feels gone.
Right, well, the electricity completely, the connection between the two of you is snapped apart. But here's my thing, is that I feel the man needs to be 100% in service to the woman.
Absolutely.
Because the woman has something that man is looking for, longs for, and needs, and can only get through woman. If you think about it, there has never been a great romantic piece of music written by a woman, because women are that love. It's the Rachmaninoffs who write these, great melodies and so forth, because there's a longing in man to connect with the beauty that woman represents. And if he makes love to the woman in a way that he's totally in service to her, that when she's full of chi in all her internal organs, and her brain is being triggered in a certain way, all the love that she represents in the universe pours through it, downloads into the man.
I mean, how amazingly cool is that?
Yeah, it's the most fantastic thing in the world. There are several things, if you ask me my top 3 favorite things to do in the world, one is creating music, because I've been a musician forever. Another would be, writing my books and so forth. The other would be helping to facilitate a woman into the highest orgasmic state. And somebody said, well, which comes first? Well, which do you think?
Yeah. Music?
Well, actually, all 3 go together.
I hear it, because she's making the music while you're
music.
But also that's music,
and you're writing the book of life together.
Yes.
And that's also when we talk about the broader essence of Tantra, creating music, writing books, doing your life work feeds your energy when you're out of the bedroom, so that you're a full man, you're a full potent individual, and when you arrive in the bedroom, you're aroused and we're arousing to her.
Yes.
Whereas if it was just in the bedroom, so they all feed into each other.
Yes, Josh, you're so right. And where this carries over is into another practice that I have, which is what I call sociological Aikido.
I like that.
The subject of my first book, The Power of I Am, and it's basically a series of practices that I do when I'm out and about in society today, so that I don't get thrown off by people's negativity or their one-upmanship games and this, that, and the other. So I know that a lot of the power that I can exhibit and demonstrate in the social arena it flows from my sexuality, which is being transmuted all of the time. But it's also to do with staying grounded through your feet in the earth and knowing which eye to look in when at certain points in the conversation to keep things on track and so forth, and not being reactive and taking the bait of things that people throw at you. So, there's 2 completely different ends of the stick. There's the gentleness and the love that one gathers in the bedroom, and also the power that flows from that allows you to negotiate the vagaries of life in a consistent manner without getting thrown off.
Mm-hmm.
So what I find interesting is, you say the word being in service to the woman, and I'm a big man's advocate. I love men, and so I do a lot of teaching men, a lot of men's classes, and men are always thrilled to hear that there's...
How come I knew that about you?
I don't know. Why is
it's
that?
It's in your voice, baby.
It's in my voice that I love men. Yeah, awesome.
Yes, and also your photographs on your website. Anybody who hasn't seen her website should go and have a look.
Or Facebook.
She's so alive. I love that little video that you have. It's really cool.
Thank you. And I think that, when you hear in service to women, I understand, and I tell women this all the time. Men want to please us. I mean, I think that that's the number one goal is men really, really, really inspire, unless it's 2 a.m. and they're drunk. Men want to please us. But what men think pleases us and what actually pleases us can be 2 different things.
There's the rub.
There you go. So enlighten us.
But here the great thing is that what you're teaching, what I'm teaching, there is all this information for men who are willing to learn and to let go of what they think they know and acquire new skills. It's not that difficult because the body knows what to do.
Right.
It's our programming and our past experience that gets in the way. So a little bit of humility on the man's part,
yes.
and hopefully a woman who is, George Gurdjieff said something interesting. He said, "Woman knows everything. The problem is she's forgotten what she knows."
True enough.
Right. So,
yep.
So the man can help the woman, but to remember what she knows by asking her to tell him what she wants. And then the innate intuition of the woman is very often going to say what it is that she's looking for.
Well, but you know what? Society has programmed women as well. And when I teach my women's classes, I'm very appalled to find out that even the most empowered women, when faced with the question, "What do you want?" say, "I don't know."
Well, this is when people come to me for personal coaching and so forth.
Yep.
I will always say to them, it's one of the first questions: "What do you want?"
Yep.
And hardly anybody can say that.
I know, people, because...
Man or woman.
Well, first of all, we're told to not reach too far. Mm-hmm. We're told to not reach for the sky. And then, if you think about our sexual education especially in the States, it's just dismal. So, right. I'm in the process right now of writing, the day in the life of a yoni, or the month in the life of a yoni,
cool.
Because it's all about how
the yoni monologues.
That's right, the yoni, right? The intimate secrets of the tantra teacher's yoni. The whole thing about we actually get used to or find pleasure in what happens to us, and that's different than actually experiencing pleasure. So women learn to put up with, to find pleasure in being touched, even when it's not being touched well.
Right.
And, this is something that people are like, what? Mm-hmm. And it's true enough. I mean, I told one woman, I said, grab a bottle of lube, give it to your man and see what happens. Yeah. And she was stunned because for 35 years she had been touched without lube and the skin dragging and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden here's the lube and he doesn't even have to be as good anymore.
Right.
Because there's no pulling and dragging.
Right, exactly.
And she was stunned because she said, well, I'd always orgasm with him and stuff. But she goes, oh, my God, I just went into completely ecstatic bliss in about 30 seconds that way because I didn't know how I actually liked to be touched.
From such a simple adjustment.
Right, right.
Right.
And to think that usually they were finishing at the level that with lube was just starting.
Right, exactly. And that's, so I say that out of 100 being a woman that's, really orgasmic, most women are idling at a -20. Right. And then getting to a 30 or 40 during sex. Mm-hmm. And forcing orgasm through tension release.
Right, or holding the breath until they nearly die instead of breathing.
Right, to get there, right? And so I call that sexual tension release versus orgasm.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you're a woman out there that's doing that, hey, no worries, because you can move on beyond that. This is a starting point.
In a way, they're orgasming in spite of themselves instead of because of themselves.
There you go, right.
They're not celebrating it. And, my feeling is that the adjustments, once you're willing to make them, there's that saying, when the student is ready, the guru appears and everything. Well, it's the same with a new idea. When you're ready for a new idea, the minute you say, enough of this, I want to be open to change, I want to be open to finding new levels of pleasure, new levels of self-understanding, those pieces of information come like magic out of the blue.
They do.
You'll hear a program, somebody will say something, and you incorporate it.
Yep. And the reality is, it's the last thing I want to do is put more pressure on women. Because, women are calling me all the time that haven't had orgasms at all and they're in their 30s and 40s or, oh my God, now my man wants me to ejaculate and, what's up with that? And, it was hard enough just to get to an orgasm.
Well,
now
just send it to Josh. I'm sure he could handle it.
You're reading my mind. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm like, we're going to connect you with Josh. He'll fly down and be with you for the weekend.
Exactly. He'll train you
out. Oh, my goodness.
But he's celibate, so there's only...
It shouldn't be a question of pressure on. It should be pressure off.
Right.
Uh-huh.
There's this Australian DVD. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a kind of nice, pure little movie, Introduction to Tantra. There's this nice girl in there. She says, I just couldn't orgasm, and then I learned to relax, and now I can't stop.
Right, exactly. Well, and, Josh was just having an experience today, and see, there's a perfect segue into that, Joshua, because he was reading, I have a book called You've Been Lied to About Premature Ejaculation, an ebook, and it's really, even though it's actually level 1 of sexual mastery, because it's all about learning about what your body does, where the tension lies in your body that causes you to not be as in control as you'd want. And Josh, tell us your little story here about doing some of the practice.
Yeah. Well, interesting, Jonathan, you're mentioning that we come to places in our lives where we say, I've had enough of this, I want more. And as we've talked in Team Tantra about really doing our work in ejaculation mastery and sexual mastery, reading through the material again, and in my home practices, if you will, if we can call it that, I was like, okay, that's nice. Now I've got to go to work. And on my way to work, driving down the highway, I'm concentrating on my breathing and just trying to feel and understand, where are those muscles? Now, I'm a massage therapist, 8 years licensed, so I have an intricate understanding of musculature and such. So I'm really, in my mind, tracking.
Now you're talking about your pelvis now, right?
What is not releasing? Yeah, I mean, having looked at anatomy books for too long to understand the body, and breathing down into my belly, breathing and feeling my pelvic floor muscles release, my hips expand, and then looking for, what am I looking for? And as I held my breath in until I could feel relaxation, I actually began to feel a new sensation. So it's almost like the muscles that we would hold when we're preventing ourselves from going to the bathroom, from urinating. I started to feel those muscles relax, and it suddenly dawned on me, having read the premature ejaculation book, that people being in tension causes all kinds of different shortcomings, literally. And in my experience, I suddenly realized, wow, that muscle's releasing, and I felt a rush of warmth. He didn't pee himself. I didn't pee myself. It wasn't that kind of warmth. But I felt a rush of warmth as those muscles actually relaxed voluntarily for the first time.
You're doing this while you're driving?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in future reference. I'm going to try something a little bit different. But what was
the cop says, "Okay, buddy, pull over."
Right. What was fascinating is, as I took a second and third breath and started to, in my mind, like biofeedback, connecting the neural pathway to that release of the muscle, I actually started to salivate. I felt moistening and warmth in the back of my throat. Mm-hmm. And as I felt that, I started to tear up. My eyes welled up, and I started to cry. And, of course, my male mind was thinking, why am I crying? Okay, what are the issues that I've been dealing with lately? And finally, they're regardless of the issues were causing the tension. Today's issues, last week's issues, what have you, they were contributing to the tension. The release and how that allowed energy to flood through my body was this incredible wash of bliss, which just brought tears. And, interesting, I'm crying, and I'm okay with not knowing why, and just being in that release.
That's good.
Yeah. And then I'm like,
why is it disease?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. And then, okay, I've got to put my turn signal on and get onto I-405. And the moment I shifted my focus and those muscles closed back up, the tears and everything just stopped instantly.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Well, Josh, if you can have that kind of high-level internal awareness while you're driving your car, I'm sure you can do it in your bed.
Are you guys endorsing?
A wonderful lover.
You guys are endorsing me as a great lover.
We think you're going to get it there. Well, what I'm really impressed by is that you took the information, willing to go, and this is part of it, is you have to be willing to tune in, slow down, and tune into what your body is doing. Most of our issues, as far as with men, and whether it's attaining an erection, keeping an erection, ejaculation, whatever it is, has always to do with the valves and muscles and everything closing and opening and tension or relaxation.
Right.
And it really is, that hard and that simple.
Yes, and isn't that one of the basic formulas of this type of sexuality? Maximum relaxation and maximum excitation of the chi of the life energy.
Right.
Which can then flow through all these subtle pathways in the body. But if you're kind of caught in a paradigm of friction sex, where it's based on some sort of frantic grasping and so forth, the energy builds quickly and runs away with you, and you're not able to guide it and focus it through the subtle meridians of the body and so forth. So, I think taking the time to learn to smile down inside yourself when you're relaxed, nothing to do with sexuality. I'm doing this all day long, smiling to my lungs, smiling to my heart, my liver, my kidneys, my spleen, down into my pelvic floor, into my testicles, into my penis, all the way down my legs into my feet, grounding myself into it, all in a relaxed way. So I'm constantly circulating the energy, and that way it builds up.
Yes.
And so when I come to make love, there's this big reservoir of energy there.
Yes. Yeah, and you're sexually vital. Sexual vitality really is a man who is living in and storing his vitality. He's not constantly spewing it out.
Absolutely.
You know,
can leak out. Sorry.
Go ahead.
It can leak out through the eyes.
Yeah.
It can leak through the things that you say.
Yes.
So I try not to say anything. I try not to let anything negative come around sexuality.
Yes.
Right.
Not to say anything negative about it. Not to let people, be crude about it, or to make negative remarks about people in relation to their sexuality. It's really the intention is to keep it in a pure, highly vitalized state, so that it can quickly turn itself into a passion that is driven by the chi, the life energy, vitalizing the necessary organs of the body, rather than the mind running away from you or taking you somewhere else. And the mind is very still and very focused upon. It's like what you were talking about, we were experiencing in the car. I was just wondering, though, if when you came to the red light, you're sitting there doing this, and the guy in the next car, he's leaning back in his seat, and he's got his rap music on, and his subwoofer, and he's working on the lower chakra. We're all so different.
Yeah.
Well, part of what if you've read some of my things, you might have seen this. Part of what I'm attempting with my group here and what we're leading is, the reality is we are moving at Mach 1 with our cell phones in our ear. And I'm hoping to reach my target audience is mainstream America. I mean, the people that are practicing spirituality and yoga, they're looking for this already. They can find it.
Yep.
But mainstream America, who's got 40 million sexless couples, right? People that 60 to 71% divorce rate.
Right.
I mean, our relationships are not working. Our sex lives are not working. Porn is the highest, addiction on the planet. There's a problem, and it's these people that part of it is, I don't use Sanskrit words when I talk a lot of the time. I don't use concepts that, make people go, what? Right. I really want to bring about a practice that we can use micro practices throughout the day that start to enhance our life. And I firmly believe that ejaculation mastery is a key for men. And as a man who practices it, in a simple term, in a basic everyday term, I mean, how long did it take, first of all, for you to learn it?
For me?
Yeah.
There's a kind of amusing story to it. In the beginning, it required some physical involvement, like Kegel muscles,
yes,
clenching of the teeth, 9 in-breaths, as I got close to the point of inevitability. So you would squeeze the Kegel muscle, clench the teeth, kind of look up in the forehead and pump the energy up. That probably took me about 2 or 3 weeks to start to really get the hang of that.
And were you experiencing any energetic orgasm at that point, or because and now as I say this, I mean to clarify that ejaculation and orgasm are two separate things.
Different things.
Yeah.
Right. No, I would feel wonderful symptoms, but just before that sort of 10-second burst of ecstatic peeing and it's all over, right, I would pull that energy in, and that blissful energy would shoot up my body, up into my heart and my brain.
Yep.
In other words, it went into my body rather than out.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, of course, that began to, I began to have constant erection and no falling off, and that disconnect that you would talk about.
Yep.
And, in fact, my lover at that time referred to my appendages as my ever-ready battery, which was rather nice. The only problem was, when I went to the dentist a few months later, he says, "What have you been doing? You've cracked 3 fillings."
Oh, right.
Oh, a little bit too much clenching there.
Too much clenching. But the next phase was mental power. Once I got the hang of it and began to taste the superior joy of ejaculation and transmuting the all the symptoms of orgasm now doubled, multiplied.
Yeah, so it's worth it, is what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's giving up nothing really for something. But Guy, I have a friend, for example, who in 1985 I discovered this. I told him about this stuff. He says, "Yeah, very interesting," and he kept on.
Right.
The old mode and everything.
Right.
The difference between us now is amazing. He said recently, "I wish I had listened to you."
Yeah, because the other thing is, not only do you keep your sexual vitality, but you stay in more of a youth faction. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, I can usually pick men out that practice that, because way into their 60s, 70s, 80s, they still can bring it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Well, and the other thing is too, women intuitively know when a man has self-mastery.
Oh, of course, because he's like...
I see it in their eyes. They know that you know, not just about ejaculation mastery, but you know everything that you need to touch and you need to do and the approach that you would embody to take any woman to where she really wants to go. And, I say that with no egotism whatsoever, because if it hadn't been for my teachers and these wonderful time-tested techniques, I would never have gotten to this place. But women know.
Well,
but they also know that they can trust you.
Well, that's it.
You're not going to abuse them and use them to serve your own selfish ends.
Because the biggest turn on for women is actually integrity.
Right.
And when a woman can sense a man has integrity, she's actually willing to go to the place of surrender.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was a child, 6 or 7 years old, I had scarlet fever, and the book that I read over and over again in that time was King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And I loved the sword in the stone. It's the man's power embedded in material consciousness.
Yes.
And only the true man can lift it out of the stone.
Exactly.
And then use it as the sword of discernment and discrimination to cut out the bullshit in his life and cleave a path from where he wants to go. But the main thing I loved about that was how the men were in service to the women.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, why do men think being in service to the women sounds horrible? I mean, and we're talking, you guys are warriors, okay? Men that bring this are warriors. That's why the women are looking at you. Okay, it's not because you're a wuss. It's not because you're like laying down as a doormat. That's not what being in service means.
Not at all. Women don't want men to be masters of them. They want men to be masters of themselves.
Thank you. Hallelujah.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Another cool thing that George Gurdjieff said, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, you understand, from several different things that he said, but the gist of it is, modern women fail to achieve their full potential because their men remain children.
Thank you. Yeah,
yes.
and like I said, I love men, and the reason, they need to hear this, and men, it's like, the reality is, women want you as warriors. Women do not want the watered-down male that's walking around now that got lost, and I'll tell you, and women need to be warriors too. I mean, men want a woman at their side that's a warrior. Right,
and the sad thing for that is, you have a lot of movie actors now. They've got this stubble of growth of beard on their face. They'll look like Bluto in Popeye, as if that's going to make them look like a man.
Josh, it's time to
oh yeah,
it's a core inner energy that women sense that the man knows how to gather and focus his power. And this is a beautiful thing. That's what the man should be. And then the fluid flowingness of the yin nature of woman. Women can let go because they feel safe to experience the love that they are.
Exactly.
And then it pours all over the man. I mean, it was the best thing in the world.
Right. And it's when I'm going to teach my men's classes and I'm talking about this and. And like you said, men get that I dig men. They get it. They get that I'm not there to bust them, that I'm actually there to help empower them and teach them what women really want. And I tell them I'm actually teaching women how to be more kind and generous as well. Mm-hmm. Because women, we are the healers to help our men get to that space of deep love. Mm-hmm. And we've got to stop warring on both sides.
Right. Well, part of that, I don't know if you're familiar with Carl Jung's ideas, but this whole thing about anima and animus.
Yes.
The animus is the male side of the woman, and the anima is the male side of the man. But these, as James Hillman said, these are psychological components of our inner world. They're not meant to get into our mouths and start running off, because that's part of the problem there. Right. So women have incredible inner strength, incredible. My wife's father just passed away, and I'm just been blown away by the way that she's dealt with it with such grace and power,
Well, and then she also has a warrior at her side.
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
So, I mean, there it is today. What do we have today? We have mostly out there single moms with no warriors. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's happening here?
Well, we're sort of sending a call then, aren't we, by saying the things that we're saying tonight, that there is a new form of manhood on the horizon.
Yes.
And we need a new order of chivalry and a new Knights of the Round Table, which is a symbol of wholeness. Men step forward out of their smallness and their dependency and their, this kidult thing where you've got 40-year-old men who are behaving like teenagers, We need some sort of call to responsibility. And I think that once a man gets a taste of what it's like to really be in that power. It's very addictive in the best sense of the word, because they're going to be connected with their truth, the truth of their being, and there's nothing more wonderful than that.
Well, the authenticity that we speak of, most men think of truth as or most people think of truth as just spewing out their negativity.
They do?
Well, it's interesting, when you say, I'll say something out, so you need to speak your truth. Well, that means I'm supposed to walk down the road and tell my girlfriend, I'd like to bang her.
God,
I'd like to bang her.
No.
I know. No. That's not what we're talking about.
No, let's clarify that then. What I mean by truth is that there's a golden compass point within yourself. And when it points to true north, you don't need to say anything to anybody. You don't need to tell people where they're coming from or where you're coming from. You know who you are without words, and nothing can take that away from you.
So self-empowerment.
Yeah.
Self-mastery.
To live, walk, move, and have your being in a sense of self that no one can take that away from you. And that gives you a platform from which a man can open up his feeling function and feel a steady state of love, a steady state of warmth flowing through his inner being. Because just as women are yin on the outside and yang on the inside, men are yang on the inside, and they should be yin on the inside.
Right.
So that they're relaxed, just like you were talking about, Josh, when you were in the car and feeling that energy. That was the flow of the yin energy through you.
Right.
But it didn't turn you into a woman. You didn't feel you needed to pull over and go into a store and buy a dress.
No.
No, I'm good.
He's good. So I think that, and tell me if I'm wrong here, because I know I am a woman. I do teach men, but I am still a woman. That ejaculation mastery has something to do with being able to find your compass and be in this place.
Absolutely. Yes. It's. I would say the number one problem for couples in America and perhaps in the world is male addiction to ejaculation.
Thank you very much. I was telling my team this the other night. I said, look, I don't want you to learn this just because I think you need to have an orgasm instead of, separated orgasm ejaculation. I'm telling you this because as part of your spiritual practice, as part of where you need to be for us to lead the world into the consciousness that we desire as our team, our mission, our global mission.
Right.
I said, you need this.
Yeah.
This is not, I always feel sad because when men think I'm trying to take something away from them, when I say ejaculation mastery is really, really important, it'll save your relationship, it'll save you. And it's because of, it's stepping out of, and you use the word addiction, it's stepping out of that need to constantly feed that neural pathway into the brain, feed those chemicals into the brain, and then also to disempower yourself.
Well, to disperse that powerful energy. I mean, it brings me to recalling my first realization that I wanted to learn this was 13 years old. However, I didn't meet someone that gave me that actual information until I met Tanja.
Right.
And, I've been on Vision Quests. I've done, 30-day liquid fasts and leading up to them. And what I'm gaining from even just being interested in Tantra and ejaculation mastery is providing more of a roadmap. That compass pointing north. It's providing me much more empowerment than sitting in the woods for 3 days ever gave. That was a beautiful experience, and it's like going to school. When you get out, you still have to fend for yourself.
And you say at the age of 13 you were aware of the need for this.
I was there sort of in anguish, feeling my potency and feeling the need to spill it, to tap off the pressure just to survive and not go insane.
Well, so, I think that as men, there is a compass needle inside us, and we know that it can point two ways. One is that it can help deliver us into a depth of ourselves that can liberate us from many, many things. And the other way, we start counterfeiting ourselves because we're throwing away our life force. So we try to make up for that by huffing and puffing, strutting about. And I actually think personally, and this may be rather radical, but I think that one of the things that has fueled men's attempts to dominate women over the centuries is because subconsciously they feel that they're outclassed in bed, that they fail in the bedroom, and that they're throwing their life force away needlessly. This is all on an unconscious level.
No, I agree with you. I think that then that becomes then the woman is the enemy because subconsciously because she's taking away this life force, this seed.
Right. So they try to make up for that by dominating and ruling in the social arena to compensate for what they can't do where it really counts, which is in the bedroom.
And to all the people out there that hear this and think, "Oh my God, this is just crazy," listen up. We're talking about subconscious programming. We're talking about an unconscious intent. We're talking about no education in this realm at all. So this is not something where nobody's bad.
Well,
here.
let me just say something here about people thinking this is crazy. No less an authority than George Bernard Shaw once said, "The planet Earth is the lunatic asylum of the galaxy."
Well, that's for sure.
Right? And anybody who thinks this is crazy, just look at the world around you that we have made out of our delusions.
Right.
And you tell me that isn't insane?
Right.
And here are three people who are brave enough to talk about something and go completely against the current that is keeping everybody in a collective trance and saying, look, the life force, the sexual force of energy within you is that which brought you into the world. It's the most powerful thing in your body.
Most powerful thing on the planet.
Do you know how to use it?
Yeah.
Do you know how to use it to transform your life? Do you know how to use it to be a better lover, to make yourself happy, to stay connected with women, to stay connected with your own heart, women to stay connected with men? Now, this is the bedrock foundation of self-transformation. If we don't look at it, then we're the ones who are crazy.
Well, I know it, and I'm out there saying it, and I was telling a story to a whole workshop once where I said the first time I was with a man who did not ejaculate in me, consciously, right?
Yeah.
Did not. It was I cried for 20 minutes.
I bet. Yeah.
It was like this profound. I remember asking him, so, this kind of like, so, what's up? Like, I'm not sexy, I didn't please you, whatever. And he looks at me and goes, no. And he explained, a short explanation of this. And he goes, this is not something that I need to do. Right. This is something I'm sharing with. And it was, I can't even, when I try to explain it to groups, I'm like, I actually will start crying. It's like, it is one of the most profound feelings as a woman for a man to be able to orgasm, to be in that pleasure that you ride with him.
Right.
Because the part of intercourse that women actually like is those moments when he's at the 9.8 and can ride in that wave.
Yeah, isn't that
right?
It's the best thing in life. And let's just reinforce here that by learning to be a man who has ejaculation mastery, you are not giving up orgasm.
No, you're having it. You're having a bunch of it.
Yeah, a bunch of it. The multi-orgasmic man. And when I was writing my book, I was so ecstatic. I'd write for 5 hours. I would go out for a walk, and I would see the whole world vibrating.
Yes.
And I would think to myself, creation is the orgasm of God. Everything.
Right.
The atoms are orgasming, and this is what the bliss of life is. Everything was so vibrant. The trees, even the concrete, the solid objects, everything seemed to be alive.
Because it is. Everything is vibrating. Nothing is static. And we are the only things that are attempting static. And probably the closest thing to staticness is a man ejaculating and everything shutting down.
Right.
And there is no life left in that. And the woman follows. Like I said, I'm with a man. The ejaculation happens. I can be super excited. Then, boom, it's totally gone. I feel disconnected from him. That's why women talk at 11 o'clock at night. Honey, they're asking the questions because they completely feel that that energetic disconnect. But here it is, people, don't feel bad. That's what I want everybody to know. There's nothing to feel badly about here. One of my poor team members just freaked out on me the other night. He goes, oh, God, I can't. He's freaking out.
I feel like I'm failing.
I'm failing my relationship. I'm failing this. And I'm like, look, settle down. I said that you are just now starting to even consider a completely foreign topic.
Right.
This is your biological drive. Is to procreate and ejaculate, okay? Nothing. That is a very strong directive.
Right. Well, darling Tanya, look, I grew up in the UK. I'm from Wales, actually, but I'm British background. And one of the longest running plays in the UK is No Sex, Please. We're British. And someone once said that the English are so emotionally stiff they make the Germans look like Italians.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that I have come from that sort of background and writing books and teaching and living this life, all of my girlfriends said, they said that I was a wonderful lover, but I think what they really meant was they liked having me as who I am inside them, but I don't think I really knew what I was doing until I got into all of this. It turns a mediocre lover into perhaps a great one.
Well, and that connection with your partner, that connection to your partner means what I look at it as this, the ultimate of Tantra as far as sexual Tantra, is when you connect to your partner in a way that fills you both, your energy and love pours out into your family, which pours
into the family,
into your community,
right,
into the city, into the world. If we want to create global change, there is no happier way than tantric union with your partner. And this is not bed hopping from one person to another.
Right.
You actually have to have a practice of vulnerability with somebody.
Yes, exactly.
And,
you know, it expands. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and the local paper, which is a plain dealer, they just did a wonderful article on me, and I gave a called Spiritual Arrival. That was the title.
That's great.
And then I gave a talk on tantric sexuality at the local library, you know.
Yep.
So
it's happening.
It's getting into the mainstream, which is what you talked about earlier. And one thing I like about your approach, Tanja, is that you haven't got caught up in this sort of back to Woodstock atmosphere.
We're trying to stay woo-woo, trying to keep it woo-woo.
Right.
That is just going to red flag the mainstream people.
Yeah.
You know, so we really need to be able to talk about it in reasonable, rational terms, and yet at the same time communicate the tremendous benefits that are available to people through this type of practice.
I agree. You know, prostate cancer being the super high thing right now, I say, you know, that more than ever, because even if you cannot get erect anymore, even if you can't have ejaculation, you can still learn to have energetic orgasm through Tantra.
That's right.
So,
and
also,
also the man with his hands can do wonderful things for a woman.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And we could do another program on that. I mean, it's an art in itself.
Yes, and with his eyes.
With his eyes, and also
in adoration.
The intention of putting his energy into the woman in a certain way.
Yes.
You know, it's possible for a man to facilitate a woman into orgasm just by concentrating on certain points in her brain.
Yep, you bet.
You know that the brain is the final trigger in orgasm. That switches get thrown over so the brain is a completely different mode, and that's when all that juice, passion exists to override the thinking mind. So off with their heads.
That's right, off with their heads. We do that a lot. Yes, there's in my book. Somebody asked me. I had a bunch of questions that people asked, and somebody said, "Can you give somebody an orgasm without touching me?" And in the book, I answer that question, and I say, "Yes, I can." We have
absolutely
3 minutes left. Please give us the titles of your books.
Sure, yes.
And any contact, web, whatever information, just load us up here.
Okay. Is this going out all over the country?
We have over 60,000 subscribers worldwide, international. I get calls from all over the world.
Jolly good. Well, my book is called Eros Ascending, The Life-Transforming Power of Sacred Sexuality. You can get it from Amazon, or you can go to my website, erosascending.com, and I've got videos on there with talking about this kind of thing. Anybody who's living in the New Jersey area, on the 24th, October the 24th, at the Center for Spiritual Living in Morristown, New Jersey, my wife and I are giving a workshop on sacred sexuality, the life-transforming power of love and sacred sexuality, from 9:30 to 4:30. There's a phone number there, 973-539-3114. But if you look on my website, you can see the information about that there also, erosascending.com.
That is fabulous. We have just a couple minutes left. I'm happy to know that you're on the East Coast, because I get called a lot for things on the East Coast, and I finally have somebody I feel like I can refer to. Because
wonderful.
I'm very
it's been great talking to both of you. I really enjoyed it, and I knew I would. I could tell from your material and just looking into it that we're really on the same page, and it's really heartwarming to know that we've got our feet on the ground, but we're keeping our vision high.
That's right.
And our bodies juiced up and excited with all this wonderful energy of sacred sexuality.
That is well, thank you very much, John, and I'm going to tell a few people, so if this is something that's interesting you, this ejaculation mastery thing, understand that I have personal coaching programs you can do via email and phone. You can go on my website and find that, as well as phone consultations. We teach workshops in Seattle, Vancouver, and we're going national here pretty soon as well. I've got the book coming out. It's at the publisher. And what else? We've got a million things going on all the time. It's
well,
pretty exciting.
I'll definitely get myself booked into something in Seattle so we can meet.
Oh, yes, that would be so amazingly fun.
I have contacts there, so some of the Unity churches.
Excellent.
So,
wow, I'd love. Well, you and I are definitely going to talk and collaborate. And if
are you on Facebook?
Not yet. I should
get on Facebook
because
we're all on Facebook.
Yeah.
I've got 2 spots left open on my couples intimacy weekend coming up on the Sunshine Coast in Canada. That is just me and 6 couples at a fabulous resort, working on sexual healing and bomb-proofing your relationship. It's fabulous. Give me a call, drop me an email if you want to find out more about that. And it looks like Billy is wrapping us up, and we will see you next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and thank you, Jonathan,
Bye-bye.
for being with us
today.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.